the first workshop of the Ambition Emotion program. I'm so excited to have you all here, so excited to get started, so excited for you to begin the endeavor of connecting with a mentor and learning about what you want to do professionally and then getting your foot in the door with professional opportunities. This workshop is, and this program in general, is going to help you get to where you want to be as a young professional into your career. And essentially for these workshops, I'm expecting you to watch this either live at 8 p.m., right when it goes live, or within the next 24 hours, and then post your comments to the questions that I have for you during the workshop. I will state those questions during the workshop when I'm doing our interviews with our interviewees, our guests for the evening. But more importantly, I want to know that you're engaged, that you're participating with this, because we've got a lot of great content for you. Now, when you get introduced to your mentor on Wednesday, you should reach out immediately. You should start the conversation immediately. You should not delay. I don't care what's going on in your world. I don't care if you're waiting for a career fair to happen. I don't care if you're waiting for some job interview to happen or you're waiting to hear back from some company. Get started. These mentors are here to help you. The more you delay getting opportunities with your mentor. So get started. Now, you can have more calls with your mentor. Actually, it's highly encouraged. But for successful completion of this program, for the way that we define it, have 3 conversations, at least 3 conversations. And those are just the general guidelines for when we believe that you should have those conversations. We will send a post-program assessment, which will allow us to capture your feedback on the program, on the experience itself. And that's essentially it. That's the program for the semester. I'm really excited to begin working with you. I'm really excited to get started. So this workshop is going to be roughly an hour long. During this workshop, we're going to cover how to achieve success in this program, how to expand your network and begin having conversations with people that you want to surround yourself with, and how you can begin working towards a goal with your mentor. This specific workshop's all about how do I get my foot in the door with opportunities. This could be an opportunity for a job or an internship. It could be an opportunity to get mentored by somebody, to be an apprentice. It could be an opportunity just to learn from somebody else, to start setting up informational interviews and just building your network. Either way, this is about getting your foot in the door, because networking is not a transaction. It's not about, hey, I'm reaching out to you so then you can get me this. Like, don't get me wrong. Your end goal could be to ultimately land an internship, and that absolutely can happen, but that is not how it goes about. That's not how you go about doing it. You have to build a relationship. You have to build trust with somebody. You have to build a rapport with somebody. And you know what? It might come about. They might say, hey, my company is actually looking to hire somebody, or I know this person that you should connect with, and they make an introduction, and that leads to that next opportunity. You never know how this is going to work out, but the key is that you're not expecting it from the relationship. You're coming in grateful for whatever opportunity that can come about from this relationship with your mentor, and you make the most out of it. But I just want to say that our goal is about how do we get your foot in the door, how can we help you effectively make those relationships happen and get the ball rolling for you. So to get credit for attendance during this workshop, I'll be asking you 3 questions throughout the workshop for you to answer, and post your answers to these questions in the comments sections within 24 hours of this video going live. So if you're watching the Sunday night episode of this workshop, I'll expect you to have your comments made, your answers to the questions that we post by 8 p.m. on Monday. If you're watching the Monday night version, I'll expect your answers to be posted by 8 p.m. on Tuesday. And if you're watching the Tuesday version of this workshop, I'm expecting your answers to be posted by Wednesday at 8 p.m. After that, you will not get credit. Now, I'm not looking for a comment like, hey, my name is John Doe, I'm just checking in. That won't get you credit. I'm going to ask you specific questions during the workshop that I'm going to point out and say, hey, post your answer to this question below in the comment section. That's how I know that you will be watching, paying attention, and are engaged in the workshop. So I want to set proper expectations. This program will not guarantee you an internship. It will not guarantee you a job, getting promoted faster than your peers. Having that mindset will not lead to proper results. This is not a program that hands things on a silver platter. These are for students. This program is for students that want to take their career path and their career into the next level, to their college experience to the next level, because that's absolutely what this program can do for you. If you think like, hey, I'm going to sit back, do the bare bones minimum, not really like apply myself, you know, you're going to get the outcome that you put into it. But if you really apply yourself, you absolutely can get the outcomes that you want. I mean, I like to think about it as the law of attraction. If you come in expecting negativity, you will get negativity. If you're open to the positive, you will achieve positive outcomes. You will attract positivity to what you want to achieve. So I really want to encourage you to come in with an open mind and a positive outlook for what you can achieve, and the willingness to work hard towards getting there. students who have gone through this program have landed jobs at places like Google and other Silicon Valley companies, Wall Street investment banks, prestigious PR and marketing firms, and major engineering firms. Absolutely, yes, that has happened many times for many students. But did those outcomes get handed to them on a silver platter? Absolutely not. It's all about what you put into this program and the outcomes that you can achieve. They absolutely are there. They are absolutely possible. You have no idea how this can come about and help you out in terms of your mentor. Treat this program as fuel to help you get to where you want to be. If you're already burning and going strong, this program can really help you accelerate. Imagine just like getting dumped a bunch of gasoline on your big fire that you're already building. If you're burning barely at an ember, let this program be a sliding point, a starting point for you to launch off. But if you think and you come in with the mentality that, hey, I'm kind of doing a couple things, but I'm kind of following the status quo of like, I just go to the annual career fairs and I apply on the online website and that's pretty much it. If you're coming in with that mentality and that you're not going to try to or be willing to open up and apply and do other things to help you get your foot in the door, this program you may struggle with, because we're going to teach you a lot of things and a lot of ways that you can go about getting your foot in the door and getting opportunities for yourself that are not the normal way. That's why this program is for the students that are really interested in taking their life, their career to the next level, because these are the tips that you are not taught in school. And the experts that we bring in, the guests that we bring in to these workshops have content, insight, and wisdom that they've utilized and explained within their books, within articles, within other pieces of content they've created that they've built an expertise on. And so the point all I'm making is that this program, if you're interested in taking your life, your career, your college experience to the next level, you are in the right place. So I'm really excited to get started. Now, a couple of keynotes about mentorship. Now, when it comes to your mentor and who you are matched with, one thing that we leverage extensively is this research called work orientation, which is how you view your work. So some people view their work as a job, some people view their work as a career, some people view their work as a calling. Imagine a triangle and imagine it being a spectrum that can change throughout your life. So after you take your assessment and after you get matched with your mentor and you log into your dashboard, you can actually see your work orientation and your paired mentor's work orientation, which is really cool. Because what we've learned is when work orientation is aligned for a mentoring relationship, the likelihood that that relationship lasts for the full 6 months is considered both productive and quality by both participants increases by 400%. It's crazy how powerful work orientation is when it comes to mentor matching. If we were just to match you based on your career interest or their status within their company or their area of expertise, we know that those are only transactional metrics, and the likelihood that that relationship will last for the full 6 months and be considered both productive and quality is low, because then there's an expectation that someone's going to give you something or that you're going to give them something, and that's ultimately not how successful mentorship works. Successful mentorship works when both people can, on a human level, invest in each other, and that's how we make the matches happen. The other key thing about mentorship is vulnerability. The willingness to open up about who you are and what you want to accomplish in your story. I know that when you are more vulnerable, you are much more likely to build trust. You cannot build trust unless you've got vulnerability first. And it's up to you or your mentor to be the first person to take that step. So I want to challenge you to be the first person to take that step, to be vulnerable first. And to give you an idea of what vulnerability looks like, I will share with you my story. Now, I'm passionate about mentorship. I'm passionate about mentorship because I needed mentors in my life. From age 15 to age 19, I was a drug dealer. And at the end of my freshman year at Indiana University, I got arrested in an undercover operation by the Indiana University Police Department. And I got 5 felony distribution charges. I was expelled from school, and I had no idea what I was going to do with my life. And I mean, that hit me like a brick wall. I mean, up to that point in time in life, I thought success was you go to school, you get good grades, you get a job, and then somewhere along those lines, you find yourself, like as if it were puberty, it would just come to me. But that's not how life works. And I had to learn that the hard way. Because no one who I had ever known that I ever thought was successful ever was a drug dealer. And so I had to accept either being a total failure or redefine my definition of success. And so I chose the latter. So I ended up enrolling in a program in St. George, Utah, to help me turn my life around. And that's where I really got exposed to the power of mentorship, both on a personal level and a professional level. On a personal level, really having personal mentors, people that are there for you, are so powerful. I really don't want to ever discredit that, because I feel like sometimes when we're here and we're thinking about our professional outcomes, we don't realize how valuable mentors can be on our personal level and really what they can do for us. Because if they help you open your mind to what you can accomplish in your career, or what you can accomplish as a person, and in who you can emulate your life after, they can really show you something that you didn't actually even believe in yourself that you could accomplish. And I think that's so powerful, and that's really what they did for me. But on a professional level, they helped me really come to the grips with the fact that when you search my name when I was 19 years old, the first thing you saw was IUPD does drug sweeps for 8. And I'm one of the 8. I mean, there could not have been a bigger red X across my name when applying for any role. I mean, could you imagine that? Literally, any role I would apply for, I would have showed up with a big red flag. That is bad. So about a month after living in Utah, I flew back to Chicago. That's where my family's from, for the weekend to let them know my life's getting on track. On that flight, I'm sitting next to a guy. We start talking. He starts sharing with me about his life. I start sharing with him about my life. We hit it off. I take a keen interest in him. I'm actively listening. I'm sharing. I'm really trying to put myself into his shoes, and I'm really, most importantly, actively listening. I'm taking down notes. I'm following up on the things that he has to say. I'm really digging into his world because he loves to talk about himself, and I'm really playing into that. Well, it turns out he's the director of ground equipment for SkyWest Airlines. And by the time that plane lands, he offers me an internship on the spot doing financial analysis for SkyWest Airlines. Boom. Like right on the spot. What an amazing experience. I mean, he took me under his wing. He didn't care about my background. He didn't care about what I had gone through or where I was going or the fact that I may even go to prison sometime in the next year. He took me under his wing and gave me a shot. And that was huge. And that's really where the whole idea for Ambition in Motion came from, was like the fact that opportunities could come out of the blue, that they didn't come from just applying on a website and people putting your resume in a background check system, and that, you know, maybe you get spit out with this opportunity. I learned that opportunities could come from just putting myself out there, being vulnerable, and taking a keen interest in somebody else and actively listening to them. And so I think that's such an important story to share with you, because it shows, I mean, my vulnerability, but 2, it shows that opportunities can come from a wide array of places, and it doesn't matter where you're coming from, it matters where you're going. And if you believe that you can achieve what you want to achieve, you absolutely can achieve it, but you have to put in the work to go and get there, and you have to be willing to be vulnerable with people. Don't hold all your failures, your mistakes close to the chest because you think people will judge you. Put them out into the world, because ultimately people will give you opportunities and they will believe in you if you let them. So that's something that's extremely important and extremely helpful for this workshop that I really wanted to share with you. Now, for this mentor program, there are 3 keys to success in this program. That is honing your strategy, your story, and your state. Now, I said those in reverse order of importance. And I'm going to elaborate a little bit about why each one of these are so important in terms of being successful in this program. In terms of your story, in terms of your state is your physical being, your physiology. Like, how are you physically right now? Are you like in a peak state? Are you ready to go? Are you jumped up, pumped up, ready to jam? Are you coming into this mentor meeting like, man, I'm about to take on the world and I'm ready to go. I'm excited. I'm amped up. Or are you hunched over? Are you in a bad body language, bad posture, in a bad mood? Something bad happened during the day. You're tired, exhausted, stressed out, whatever. If you're coming in with a negative state, I can promise you're going to have a bad relationship. Your first impression is everything. Your first impression is everything. If you come in a negative attitude because you've had a bad day, I can promise you the relationship is not going to get off to where you want it to be. But if you come in with high energy, you come in like, hey, I'm pumped, I'm excited to learn from you, I'm excited to learn your story, I'm excited to ask you questions, I'm excited to share knowledge with you and have you ask me questions, I'm excited for this relationship to begin. If you come in with that mentality, you will have a great and positive first impression. Now, there's a couple ways that you can go about doing this. One way, and my favorite way to go about getting yourself into a peak state physiologically, is to get up, shake it loose, and yell at the top of your lungs. I know it sounds crazy to do something like this, but I want you to do it right now while you're watching this video. I don't care if you're in your dorm room. I don't care if you're in your house. I don't care where you're at. I want you to stand up, and I want you to shake it loose. I want you to shimmy. I want you to let it go. I want you to scream at the top of your lungs. Just go, yeah! Just let it loose. Let it out. Let it go. Because here's the thing, when you do this, you're releasing endorphins in your brain that make you feel excited, that make you feel energized, that make you feel good, that make you feel confident, that make you feel like I am here and ready to take on the world. And when you do this, you get yourself into a state ready to be in a good mood, to leave a good impression. So I don't care what's going on with your world. If you get yourself into a state physiologically conducive to being successful, get your body language on point, you are going to be successful. Promises on that. The next key is your story. So what is the story that you tell yourself? If you tell yourself a story like, oh man, I'm an introvert, so I couldn't possibly be good at networking, or I couldn't possibly be good at socializing or being around other people. Or if you tell yourself, I'm an extrovert, I'm crazy around people, I can't even handle it right now, I'm nuts. I can't even contain myself when I'm around people. I'm just like a blabbermouth. I have word vomit. I just let things fly like crazy. If you tell yourself these stories for why you will or won't be successful, that will become a self-fulfilling prophecy. So back to what I was talking about when I said the law of attraction. If you believe that you can be good at something, you will be good at something. I promise you that. But the key is you have to believe it. And the second thing is you have to practice it, because networking is a skill, like shooting a basketball or knitting a quilt. The more you practice, the better you get. So if you think, oh man, I'm an introvert or I'm an extrovert, which makes me bad at networking, you're not going to practice networking, which is going to reinforce you being bad at networking. But if you work at it, if you practice, if you use this mentor program to meet with your mentor, someone who's got like of no consequence to you, like if you, God forbid, mess up this relationship with your mentor, what is the worst that happens? This was a total stranger that you've never met before this moment. Now all of a sudden you're building this relationship. Why not give it a shot? Because here's the thing. If it ends up working out great, it gives you the confidence to start reaching out to more people and building a better rapport with more people and building your network. And then all of a sudden you can become better at networking. You can be better at building relationships with other people. And you can be better at learning opportunities when they arise and getting your foot in the door. So the point I'm making here is, what is the story you tell yourself? What is the thing that you've got in your mind for why you will or will not be successful? And the key here is that if you do have something positive in your mind, I promise you, you are going to be much more likely to manifest that outcome for yourself. And the last key is the strategy. So what are the strategies that you are going to leverage to help you getting your foot in the door for an opportunity? Now, here's something that I like to do. I like to implement new routines every single month, because what it does is it helps me get into powerful habits. Now, some of them stick, some of them don't stick. Some of them take, a while to stick. Some of them take practice, and that's okay. But the key is that you have to start. And so one thing that I would love for you to start doing in terms of a strategy to help you build a strong routine that will help you start getting your foot in the door is if you don't have a LinkedIn profile account, get a LinkedIn profile account. LinkedIn is a powerful tool. It's so powerful. Well, then once you've gotten a LinkedIn profile account, I want you to connect with 10 new people in your field, not just 10 new friends or whatever. If you're just starting your LinkedIn account, friend request everybody. Get as many as you can. In fact, you should really try to get above 500 plus LinkedIn connections, because once you're there, you are much more in the LinkedIn algorithm likely to get recommended by other people in terms of connecting with them. But more importantly, I want you to connect with 10 new people in your field of interest. So if you want to get into banking, connect with 10 bankers. If you want to get into marketing, connect with 10 marketers. If you want to get into engineering, connect with 10 engineers. Connect with 10 new people every single week. And it's a really easy thing to do. Send them a personalized message. Say, hey, Jane Doe, I'm a student studying XYZ category. I'm really interested in your work, and I'm interested in potentially pursuing a career in this path. I would love to connect and maybe learn a little bit more about your work, your name. It's the simplest message. And in fact, if you go on the tips and templates tab on the AIM dashboard, you can actually see a copy and pastable link that you can literally copy and paste to help you send this message out to other professionals on LinkedIn. But if you can get into the habit of sending 10 new people a connection request every single week, I promise you, you're going to start meeting with some of these people, and this could open up doors that maybe weren't even there or you didn't even realize were possible. I strongly encourage that. 70% of all job offers go to somebody who knows somebody at that company, not from just applying blindly on a college career website. I promise you that. 70% of jobs go to someone who knows someone at that company. So if you can build relationships with somebody at that company, your resume will go to the top because you were a referral, not a random stranger who applied. Build your network. So one thing that I love to do, and by the way, we're about to get started into our guest speaker, but one thing that I love to do before, to really reinforce what we're talking about, one thing that we've learned is teaching something to somebody else. So think about something that you've learned within these first few minutes of this workshop so far, or something that you will learn through our guest speaker in this workshop. I want you to think about that, and I want you to teach it to somebody else. Something that you learned. And the reason why this is so powerful is because learning something in a workshop is amazing. I mean, sure, I'm on here, I'm on this video, and that's great. That's all. That's amazing. That's fine and dandy. But if you go back to bed, or if you're like, oh, that was cool, I kind of took a note, whatever, like that might stick, but the likelihood that it actually sticks increases exponentially when you teach it to somebody else. So find a friend, find a stranger, find somebody, and teach them something that you learned this evening, and I promise you it will reinforce substantially more in your brain. You are much more likely to adopt the habits that you are learning. You're much more likely to apply the skills that you are gaining. So that is the key thing that I really want to stress with you from this workshop. So I'm really excited to jump into our guest speaker because we've got a great one for you this evening. I'm excited to learn. I'm excited for you to learn from our guest. Hey everybody, welcome to our workshop this evening. I'm so excited to talk about how to get our foot in the door for professional opportunities, and really how we can authentically put ourselves out there in a way that allows us to garner opportunities, learn new skills, and just learn more about ourselves and what we like and what we don't like. We've got an incredible guest speaker with us here this evening. We've got Bryan Guadagno. Bryan is the Chief Financial Officer of It's Skinny Pasta and is a data-driven senior executive and consultant with more than 10 years of success across the financial services, hedge fund, management consulting, and wealth management industries. Bryan, thanks for being here.
Yeah, of course, Garrett. Thank you. That was a great introduction.
So, Bryan, we're here to talk about how students can go about getting their foot in the door for professional opportunities. I think maybe before we jump into tactics on how students can do that, I'd love to learn more about your story. How did you get into the work that you're doing today?
I started my career with a multifamily office out of Indianapolis, where I learned really a lot that there was to know about the financial industry and really just across all sorts of sectors within the financial industry. I always knew as a finance major that I wanted to learn about how things worked. And it really took learning about the world after I started my career to realize that I didn't know anything when I came out of college. And I really did myself a disservice by not knowing anything out of college, because I think there were things that could have been learned that could have guided my path a little bit more intently. But as I kind of went down that path, I realized where I wanted to fit within the financial world, and I began taking steps towards it. I think this could have been easier had I known where I wanted to go ahead of time, but as a result, I sort of took a very backwards path to doing what I do. Most people in the financial field, they get into corporate finance, they stay in corporate finance, they want to be an investment banker, they follow that track, and then they go into venture capital or private equity, whatever path they so desire. In wealth management is very service oriented, which was where I started my career. I really was attracted to the transactional nature of large deals, private transactions in general. So migrating away from the public markets to the private markets, and I sort of followed that path from being an investment banker in New York, then to kind of carving my own path, and deploying capital into companies that I wanted to be a part of, and also having a lot of fun operating those companies, and that's where I am now, and very to the tune of what you were saying about kind of extraordinary kind of career paths, not run-of-the-mill atypical career paths. There's a lot out there, right? And I just kind of followed my feet a little bit, and kind of let what I wanted to do guide my path, as opposed to the not getting bogged down, I guess, into a particular sector or position wherever I was.
That's cool. There's so much to kind of share. Well, one, thanks for sharing your story, Bryan. I think that was really cool. I loved hearing that. I'd love to clarify something. So when you said when you got out of college, you didn't know anything. What do you mean by that?
I mean, I didn't know the difference between corporate finance and investment banking. I didn't know the difference between an insurance salesman and a financial planner. I didn't know the difference between a stockbroker and a financial planner. I didn't know the difference between venture capital and private equity. I didn't know the difference between a hedge fund and a private equity firm. It was just, you hear these buzzwords about, things and where you want to gravitate towards, but you don't actually understand what they are, why they're different, and more importantly, why they exist. What do they serve to, what value do they provide to the consumers of the services or the products that are being sold? And you need to understand that in order to understand where you want to fit within the financial world, because otherwise you're going to get bogged down by things that brush up, I think, against some internal morality, ethical issues, and goals-based results.
That's really interesting. I bet there's a lot of students that are going through that right now, where they're like, oh, I'm an engineering student, or I'm a business student. I want to pursue this career in marketing, or mechanical engineering, or finance, or accounting, or whatever. Like, they've got this idea based on the classes that they were good at. But I would imagine that many of them are in a similar boat as you, because you were in a pretty prestigious business school. You'd gotten the education. I guess, what could you have done to help you better prepare, better understand what the world was like before you graduated?
It's a good question. I don't know if it was just my learning curve, or it was maybe my peers understood. I don't know if they did or didn't. I know I didn't. I think, what could I have done differently? I think we could have just drilled in college a little bit more into why each of these specific roles are unique and the purpose that they serve within the financial community. I think that would have been very helpful, because
I think that makes. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we're thrown all these potential career offerings, right? And you see a buzz name like Ernst & Young, and you're like, oh, I want to apply for that. And then you realize that I have absolutely no interest in being an accountant, none whatsoever. But I went and I interviewed and I wanted the job. But I didn't know what an accountant did. So, tax accounting, audit, like what are those? What's the actual function? I think in school, if we had drilled into that a little bit more, it would have helped guide our career decisions a little bit better, at least for me.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Obviously there are internships, but I know for a lot of internships, it's not necessarily you're doing the exact work that you would be doing if you were in that specific role itself. And I can definitely recall being at Indiana University, doing pro formas or trying to, do these different financial analysis in our class, but I didn't understand the full why. Like, why is this important? Like, why is learning how to do these pro formas or projections or accounting or any of these stuff, why is this important? Like, it was almost kind of like you were learning the very minutia, like you're learning how to make a puzzle piece, but you didn't know what the whole puzzle looked like after it was put together. And so you were kind of just figure out almost as you go. And so I think this notion of trying to ask the why of why this is important is critical. Mm-hmm. So how can students leverage that? How can students at this point in time in their life now, where they're maybe learning a lot of these skills, maybe they have an internship, but one thing I think I've noticed is a lot of students are apprehensive to ask the questions, to go to somebody and just say, hey, why are we doing this? Because they don't want to think they're asking a stupid question. What is your advice for students who have that mentality of like, oh, what if they think this question's stupid? How do you help them kind of overcome that?
I think you have to begin with the end in mind. I mean, what do you want to accomplish in this world and in this life? And I think, I mean, I think we always need to be asking ourselves that question, even if it's as early as us being in college and we think we have a clean slate and we don't have to worry about the real world yet. I think you need to ask yourself, who do you want to be and where do you want to be and what kind of impact you have on the world, what inspires you. And just by asking those questions, you give yourself purpose, and that purpose, that why, can drive whatever resistance that you have in not asking the question, because you need to get to the answers in order to fulfill your why. So I think it has to start from within.
I think that makes a lot of sense. So let's take a moment to pause, ask the students a question here. Students, what is your why? I know it's a very big, deep, crazy question. You might be 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 years old. You might be a little bit older than that. It might be a deep, heavy question, but for right now, based on your entire understanding of the world as it is at this given moment in time, what is your why? Post in the comment section. I'd love to learn about it. So to the topic of getting your foot in the door, Bryan, when you transitioned from Indianapolis to New York City, how did you get your foot in the door with that opportunity to go to New York City? How did you connect with people? How did you build those relationships?
Yeah. So you definitely have to cast a wide net. I think the number one thing is to understand that we all want to talk to students. People in my position want to talk to students. The students just don't reach out. And we want to help. We want to connect you with people. We want to invest in your success. And it's very rare that students actually take the time to reach out to us, to follow up appropriately, and to ask questions that aren't, hey, can you give me an internship? But, hey, who do you know? Like, here's what I want to do. Here's my why. Here's where I want to be. Here's the path that I'm seeing. What are your thoughts on the path? How would you tweak that path? What was your path? And who are two to three people in your network that I should be speaking with, or that you're comfortable introducing me to? And I can guarantee with that approach, 95, 99% of the people that you speak with will be receptive. They'll introduce you to people, because you have to dig in order to find exactly where you want to be. And when I moved to New York, I moved without a job. But I spent, I communicated to my company, my intentions. And I spent a couple months before I left lining up meetings and interviews and stuff like that. I had an interview pretty much the week that I was back. I had an interview every day of the week. I had 3 job offers on the spot, and I accepted the one that I wanted to accept. And that was it. And I just kept rolling.
Good for you. That's cool. And I love that story. I love that you went into just you moved to a city that you knew you wanted to be in, but you maybe didn't have the offer quite yet in hand. But you casted a wide net, and you leverage those key questions. By the way, for all students watching this, rewind by about a minute and a half. Re-listen to those questions Bryan just suggested. That was gold. Those questions are incredibly powerful. And I think one thing that you probably have opened the eyes up for a lot of students is this notion that people want to help students. I think as students, we think to ourselves like, oh, who would want to talk to me? I'm some 20-something-year-old. Like, I don't have any experience. What do I have to give? What would they want to chat with me for? And I think what you're shedding light into is that, 1, people are genuinely helpful, and 2, people want to help those who are in a position that they used to be in. It's like they see something in you that they maybe had in themselves at one point in time. And the fact that you are willing to put yourself out there to ask for it, you're doing something that nobody else is doing.
I would also say, don't be afraid to swing for the fences with who you reach out to, because you'll be surprised who actually responds. And I would also say, don't be offended if they don't get back with you. Follow up like a madman, and also or madwoman. And also, don't be afraid to reach out to people that don't kind of fit the role of who you think can help, because that doesn't mean that they don't know people that can. And so just anyone and everyone who's willing to offer you someone in their network who could be a help to you, it would be worthwhile.
I love that. I think that swing for the fences notion is so huge. I know that personally has worked for me for booking, let's say, speakers in our lunch and learns. Yeah, I'll reach out to some incredible people. Like, I mean, I still haven't interviewed, let's say, the Brene Browns or the Adam Grants. They're on my list of people that I love to interview. They're like on my interview crush list. And by putting it out there, I know that law of attraction, eventually one day I will. But I've interviewed some incredible people just on ways that they've gotten to where they're at. And I would have never thought I could have done that had I not tried to play bigger. And that's, or another way of putting it is just a punch above your weight class. Don't be afraid to, because you know what? There's a lot of really helpful people out there who just genuinely want to see other people succeed, and they're a lot more generous with their time than most realize. So I think that's a great point.
If you ask the questions the right way. If you ask the questions the right way.
That's true. I was just about to say, that's the very next point is the questions, the way that you suggest the students ask those questions is so powerful, because if we come in thinking like, hey, can you give us that internship? Hey, can you give us that job? Like immediate acts. Like if we're not reaching out to somebody or we're denying a conversation because we don't think they can get us that job or internship, like we're already crossing them out without even having a conversation with them. We're coming in with too transactional of a mindset. We should be coming in with the mindset of, I can learn from this person. I want to learn their story. How did they get to where they're at today? People, by the way, people love to talk about themselves. And by doing that, we are going to put ourselves in the best position to get to know somebody better. And you know what? Hey, they may end up turning around and saying, hey, I actually know John Doe. I'd be happy to introduce you. He's one of my good buddies from college. He's doing this stuff. Be happy to make that connection. You never know. So, Bryan, I love just to ask him, just in terms of another question. Did you ever struggle? Did you ever face any obstacles when it came to achieving a goal professionally for yourself? And how did you overcome those obstacles?
Yeah, I think every transition is an obstacle. Every elevation is an obstacle. I think you just need a persistence to know that, number one, it doesn't do any good to focus on the negative outcomes. It doesn't serve you in any way. So putting all of your effort into a positive outcome is the best way to actually achieve that positive outcome. And also the knowledge, the undying knowledge, and I'm not saying this is easy, because it actually is quite difficult to do, but having the knowledge undoubtedly and unquestionably that you will succeed. And if you haven't succeeded yet, it's just a function of time. It's just a function of when. And if you can approach every day with that mindset, it's not a function of if, it's just a function of when. You'll get what you're after.
That's a cool way of putting it. It's gosh, you outlined 2 points that I'm a really big fan of. One is essentially the Will Smith quote, any focus on your plan B is a distraction from your plan A. Essentially, any eggs you put into other baskets that are your backup plan ultimately are detracting you from actually achieving your main plan, because most people putting all their might into one area struggle to get to ultimately where they want to do. But if you're only going halfway because you're holding back because you want to have some backup, like cozy seat at the table just to be safe or whatever, that's going to deter you from somebody else who's all in on what they want to achieve.
And it also kind of it ties back to, how many times have you been in a situation where you've had so much work, you were so overwhelmed, you were stressing yourself out, and you were wondering how you're going to get everything done, or your emails were backed up and you had to respond to 1,000 different people, and you weren't sure that you were going to be able to do it, and you're worried about how that's going to reflect on you if you don't respond in a timely fashion. And fast forward 2 to 3 months from that time and looking back, and you don't even remember, because everything always tends to work out. So if you could take a step back and realize that you're in the midst of a battle when you're feeling hard times, and that battle is not forever, it's just a moment in time, it helps you get through it. And it also puts into perspective that it's just a function of moving forward. It's just all about moving forward. And I really love that, any focus on plan B is a distraction from plan A. you can't think about it too literally because, everyone wants to hedge. Naturally, everyone wants to hedge. But if your sole focus is on the success of plan A and not necessarily in how plan A becomes successful, because there are always obstacles and there are always headwinds. But if you're unilaterally focused on the execution of plan A will come to fruition. And it's not a question of if, but when. And it's not a question of if, but or the how doesn't matter as much is really what I'm trying to get at. It's not going to ever be perfect, but you're going to get there one way or the other. And so reducing the focus on the how also is important.
I love that. I think reducing the focus on the how makes a lot of sense, because if we only focus on the how, we insinuate that we are perfectly and infinitely smart, that our ideas are the optimum way of doing things. And in reality, more likely than not, having multiple heads in a room to give you different perspective and feedback will help you make the best decision for yourself at any given moment in time. So if you're only relying on your ideas, your likelihood of actually achieving that outcome is relatively low, because you alone are not that smart. I'll just say it like right now. You alone, with you in an echo chamber, not that smart. But you with other people with input can be insanely powerful. But so the point, I guess, maybe to add on, Bryan, to what you're saying, is just the how can be so critical. Or rather, the how doesn't necessarily have to be so critical, because ultimately it's about just getting to where you want to be. I liken it to a basketball metaphor. Typically, the team that wins the game is the one that gets the most shots up. Not necessarily the one with the greatest field goal percentage, but the one that gets the most shots up. So if you can grab some offensive rebounds and get an extra shot up or two, and they eventually go win, teams that have a lower field goal percentage can still win because they have more shots than the other team does. So
I'm also more so thinking about it through a slightly different lens, and not necessarily that you're not smart. I actually think everyone has the capacity to figure shit out. Is that okay that I said that word?
Of course.
I think everyone has the capacity to figure stuff out. So it's more just about creative thinking, right? Like not being stuck in the mud about a certain outcome and how that outcome needs to come to fruition, right? Like as a direct example. So one of our companies that we're working with right now, we set out to buy the company, and we really liked the product. We really wanted to sell the product, and we put about 6 months of work into going out and buying this business, and at the 11th hour they walked away. But we had made all these commitments of what we wanted to do and how we wanted to do it, and we had been building to another solution, an alternative solution that actually put us in a better position, where instead of actually buying this business, why don't we just rebrand the product that they were already selling? Through our diligence, we had already stepped into a material portion of what they were doing, and we just kind of stepped into it, and we did it on our own. So we, what could be perceived as a colossal failure, your pits often can become your peaks if you shift your perspective. And that's more so what I'm talking about. The pits can become peaks if you just look at things differently.
Yeah, I love that. It's more often than not, failure isn't a lack of resources; it's a lack of resourcefulness.
Yeah.
So finding those opportunities that are different, that are sometimes out of the way that you thought it would be to get to where you wanted to be, tends to be a great opportunity to achieve growth. So let's talk about some ways students can get their foot in the door when they don't know anybody. Let's say I'm a student, I don't know a single person. How can I get my foot in the door? I guess really the question is, what are your thoughts on LinkedIn and other virtual tools to getting your foot in the door?
I think LinkedIn is fun. I'm not personally in a position where I respond a lot to people. I responded to you on LinkedIn. I'm not personally in a position though where I respond to too many people unless I really connect with what they're saying on LinkedIn, because I just don't check LinkedIn all that much. But On my LinkedIn, if I mean, you can't find my email. In fact, I think I'm on the Kelly. I think I'm on some website with my email for people who want to reach out to people in the business school. And there are a ton of people like that, right, that are on there. So getting your foot in the door is just about what we talked about earlier. It's just reaching out to people in your network. Don't be too proud about who you reach out to, and ask for connections and just keep working it. That's the only way to do it. If you don't know somebody.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's great advice. I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think what you illuminate is that it's not one person. Don't like envision, oh, this person's going to be the person that's going to talk to me. It might take sending out 10, 15, 20, 50, 100 emails to 100 different people to finally get one of them to respond. Yeah. It might take a while.
Yeah, like I can say pretty blankly, if I really like you, I might give you an internship. But like 99 times out of 100, I'm going to be able to point you in the direction of somebody that I think can help you. And that is more help than me helping you directly.
That's awesome. And that makes a lot of sense. So that kind of leads into the mentorship component of this. So all these students in this program, they've got a mentor, somebody that's helping them as they work through their own professional growth and aspirations and goals. If I'm a student and I'm doing these informational interviews and I'm getting this feedback, and I've shared with my mentor and other people what my own goals are for my career, and then all of a sudden after learning more information, things change, how do I communicate that? I think a lot of students are sitting in the scenario of they formulate such an identity of what they thought they wanted to do, and then all of a sudden things change based on gathering new information and data and research, and then they almost think like, shoot, am I a hypocrite? Do I have to like cut all these relationships out because I've shared with them what I thought I wanted to do and now things have changed? Is that okay for things to change, and is it okay for you to share that things have changed for your own life and goals and progressions?
Life is a winding road. What you want to do today is not what you're going to want to do tomorrow or the next day, metaphorically. It's okay to have changes of heart and changes of thought and changes of mind. It's a very natural thing. And a career doesn't necessarily have to be the way people think about it. And I actually think it would be healthy for everyone to forget the way they actually think about a career, and instead focus on your why. I said it before, I'll say it again. If you focus on the why you do things as opposed to the what, then you're going to have a lot more purpose, and then it doesn't matter what you're doing because your why will be congruent with who you are. And everything you do will resonate that much more powerfully. And when what you do resonates more powerfully, then people connect with you more. And when people connect with you more, you're more successful because you can get what you want done.
That's awesome. That makes sense. I think it's it goes back to the key points of that. I think that makes a lot of sense. Bryan, you're a really confident guy when it comes to speaking, talking to people. I think some students might hear you talking and they may think like, man, this guy's just got no fear. He just reaches out to anybody. Like, I don't know if I could do something like that. I don't know if I've got like it in me to like have that communication skills to do that. Do you have any suggestions for students managing that anxiety or potential stress or nervousness of reaching out to somebody who is like who they think is way out of their reach? Do you have any suggestions for just kind of like calming down and overcoming that?
Yeah, I don't think it's a function of calming down and overcoming it. Garrett, you've heard me talk about this before. Confidence comes from self-love, right? I love myself, and I work at loving myself. The same way relationships take work. Relationships with yourself take work. And the more you can look in the mirror and you can say, I like who I am, the more confident you're going to be in doing anything because you have an unshakable foundation. And there's always going to be nerves when you're doing things that are outside your comfort zone. And those are things to lean into, because anytime I think you're feeling those nerves, there's a learning experience there. But there's a practice of self-love that I practice, and I would encourage everyone to do that. And that comes from meditation. It comes from self-reflection. It comes from journaling. It comes from therapy, and very routine work. and you know, you need to have a practice of prioritizing yourself. And I think there's such a stigma against selfishness, and it's very misplaced because uh, there's only one you, and you have the responsibility to love you. Because if you don't, that's when we get into positions where, you know, compromising positions where we're prioritizing someone else's needs over our own, and we can only internalize that for so long, and it brings us down a path that is not our own. And if we're not the best versions of ourselves, if we don't practice loving ourselves and we're not the best versions of ourselves, then we can't shine our light the way it's meant to be shown. And then you're doing yourself, and you're doing the world, and you're doing everyone that you know a disservice.
That's great insight, man. That's a great point. That's definitely a point we've not brought up in any of our workshops before, and I think that's a really good point. I love to ask the students a question on that topic. And I know this might be an interesting question, but what part about you do you like the most? Post in the comment section. I'd love to learn about it. I mean, most of these people in here, it's like we're all learning from each other. What part about you do you love the most? Share it with us. I'd love to learn about it. Post in the comment section. So Bryan, let's talk just about any final points that you'd love to make for students just as they're progressing in their career, progressing in their life, progressing for themselves in general. I'd love to learn any final tips, any final points that you've got for our students as they work towards their ultimate professional goals and aspirations.
Just parting words, super high level. And it sounds cliche, and it's not meant to be, but life is a game, but it's also very precious. And a career is not your life, and making money is not your life. And I don't mean to just kind of double take back to the why, but if you establish that why, and you establish a foundation of self-love and self-confidence, you will put yourself on an unshakable foundation when you know your purpose. And you don't have to know your purpose, and the purpose doesn't have to be grand. It doesn't have to, just what do you connect with? What in the world do you like? What in the world that pisses you off? What in the world do you want to change? Just pick something and lean into it, because there's something there. If there's something coming up for you, there's something there. Explore it, and explore it in everything that you do. And if you have a foundation of a why and a foundation of self-love within that why, you're gonna be on an unshakable foundation, and forget everything that you know about a traditional career path, because it's all bullshit. And I tell this to people every time they talk to me, and for the most part, it goes in one ear and out the other. But I want to shake kids sometimes, because you only get one life, and it's your choice on how to live it. So, you know, I wish that I had this knowledge when I was graduating from college. I wish. And it's not a realization that just happens like that. You have to work towards it. But it starts with the idea. And if I can give any of you the idea that you literally can manifest and manufacture what you want, and traditional career paths are bullshit, then I've done what I intended to do here on this call.
That's great. That's awesome. That's great wisdom. I want to ask students a question. What in the world do you want to change? Post in the comment section. What in the world do you want to shake up, change, do differently because you think it needs to change, it needs to happen? Post in the comment section. I'd love to learn about it. Bryan, this was awesome, man. I love learning your feedback. I love learning your thoughts, your wisdom for our students. I think there were so many great pieces of golden nuggets you shared with our audience today. I guess last point of connection is how can our students learn more about you? I know a lot of our students are on LinkedIn. Are you all right if they connect with you on LinkedIn?
You can connect with me on LinkedIn. You can send me a message. Make sure you say in the message that you watch this video so I know to respond, because sometimes I can be a little coy about responding if I don't know you on LinkedIn. But you know, when I connect with you and you put in there, you will have my email. So you You know, you can message me on LinkedIn, but I'm a little bit slower. But if you email me, I'll typically get back with you.
That's awesome. Bryan, thanks for being here. This was awesome. Students, thank you all for being here. I'm looking forward to seeing you at our next workshop. Have a good rest of your evening, everybody. Bye.